Hi, we don't have any sound in Zoom. I don't know if you can hear us here.
There we go. Let's try it now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yay, thank you.
And my name is Courtney Granite, and I have
Me.
I've got some background in operation management, statistics, and IT, information technology. And so I didn't start out as a geography person, but I do bring a lot of I guess, data background to this program for the city. And so that's what we're going to share with you today. We're going to talk a lot about power of this visualization, and then dive into how this article, ArcGIS user, the article for the City of Las Cruces came about. So we'll talk quite a bit about that too. And so before I get started, I kind of wanted to ask the audience, what brings you here today? What is of interest to you? Is it just GIS and geography, or is there some other component to that? So we're just going to ask a couple of you to, if you're in the chat, go ahead and respond to the chat if you would, or have some of these students here respond with some of the information. This will just help me kind of interact with you a little bit more. And I have a lot of people here from the city. I don't want to hear from you all because you're on my team. So how about some of the students? What brings you here today? It's down on
Just the geography class was probably brought me. It was the one that introduced me and gave me the invitation to come along. When I was reading the slides, it said something about the community utility bills and stuff that it has been helped, also about the park recreation. That interests me. I'm trying to major in education. So, but I'm looking forward to Las Cruces and doing my job here.
How about you?
It's interesting to see how, GIS is applied, especially like in the workplace. I've always been interested in planning and development and that sort of thing. So, any chance I get to learn about how GIS is applied, out in the world, that's always an interest to me.
Yeah. What about you, Emily?
I'm interested in GIS and how it works with the City of Las Cruces.
And what is your current studies?
Geography.
Sure. Anybody else from that row want to provide feedback? How about
I'll pipe up and say that, I was really glad to see this because I feel like the university and the city should kind of be invested together for the well-being of our people. And so I think it's really great to see you here and hope that we can continue to expand that relationship. I know that you have some of our students working there, and we want to get more, and we also want to facilitate whatever we can to help the city make this a better place.
Great, thank you. How about somebody from the next row? Anybody? Students? Nobody? Come on, how about you in the middle there?
Okay, so I'm interested in using GIS to analyze data in my research, and so I think this would be also critical.
Okay, great. All right, thanks for your participation. Was there anybody in the chat who commented? No, we've got a bunch of shy people. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how, did we lose the chat? Is everything good?
No, it's just close enough.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about our GIS program at the city and some of the history. So it originally started in '92, and from '92 to 2012, there were 3 GIS professionals in the city, and they worked out of our information technology department. From what I understand from our historian who's sitting in the back here, it was a lot of fire stopping. The focus was mostly on the task of the life cycle of a task that was given to them. So they were considered the data keepers, and there was not a whole lot of enterprise growth for the application itself. It was very kind of You know, maybe you just had it on your computer and that was it. It wasn't data sharing across the organization. Over time, when we went into 2012, all the way to 2020, and continuing on today, we've been decentralized. That means the staff in the city are now focused on, not in IT, they are supporting the city in different departments. The key departments are community development, parks and recreation, public works, utilities, and then community development supports a lot of the additional needs of the city, such as public safety, quality of life, economic development. So the other three departments are really focused more on the assets of the city and the infrastructure of the city. We also have additional staff that we bring on occasionally through our intern program or our co-ops. And that's where the students from at MSU are able to participate with the city in a paid capacity. So the role of IT switched at that time to more of a support role to GIS rather than we reporting to IT and being a part of that department. So currently we're focused more on the data management of the city's data from GIS. That means any of the assets, the infrastructure, roads, addressing streets, things like that. We all help contribute to that, and we work with the demands of the department. So during that time, there was a lot of slow enterprise growth, slight increase in customer service because we were just tucked away in IT doing, you know, kind of data focused initiatives. And we were also governed by an executive steering committee, you controlled them at that time. And so let's fast forward to 2021, where we kind of started this initiative for adoption. And that's what we really talk about in this article. Our accuser article is how we were going to grow interest within the city, getting people to utilize GIS more and not just have 10 professionals in GIS doing all the work for everybody. We wanted people to experience utilizing GIS for themselves with their data and bring more of a collaborative approach to the organization. And so that kind of brings us to where we are today. We had a lot of success this past year, really implementing some of these initiatives through this modernization of GIS across the enterprise. And so our goal really is to give a man a fish so we can feed them. I'm sorry, we don't want to give them a fish for a day. We want them to fish for themselves so they can fish for a life, feed themselves for a lifetime. So we use that analogy more for the GIS application. We want them to use it, consume it, bring their data in, and think about data in a way that makes sense for themselves. Next. Any questions on the history there before I do move on? So this section, I want to talk a little bit more about actually before I move on, I have some notes here. I want to talk a little bit about the structure of how we changed over time, because when we talk about data from the first page, how data was managed, it's really moved more from GIS doing all the creation or giving people an opportunity to create and contribute into our environment. And so we are now visualizing other enterprise data more in a spatial way. We're bringing other data from the organization and allowing that to come into GIS and showing multiple data layers together to present information to people, help people see it, ask questions about data, and answer different questions. So it's not just creating a map and pulling one piece of data in. We're doing that across the organization using different data components from the video's data. We also, during the two periods of time when we decentralized, we introduced interns into the city's workforce. And so what that helped us do even now is create this incubator of building up students in the workforce and growing some skill sets. And we continue to do that now. And I really, we have some success stories we'll show you a little bit later, but we have some students here that were grown out of that program from the city. We have Rachel, who was a co-op. We have Adam, who was a co-op. Lucas in the back, who was a co-op. And we also have Alex, who is a co-op. So you can see that they have been successful in contributing to the organization, and then they become part of the entire city's workforce. They get hired on in a full-time capacity. There's a potential for that. So we want to encourage that ability to work with students, bring them into our environment where they can find real-time work application of GIS or geography in the city, and help grow the city and help our constituents out there. So I just wanted to share that because that was part of the kind of the history there from the previous slide. And also these interns that we've had have contributed to this whole Connect Las Cruces that we're going to talk about now. Connect Las Cruces is the term we're using for this. Scroll down a little bit. I mean, this initiative, what we're calling Connect Las Cruces, was really about this whole adoption management and expanding the use of GIS in the organization. The key thing was it was focused on people. We wanted to build a network of people that were excited about using GIS, and kind of showing others how to use it. So once that kind of kicked off, we were able to modernize GIS across the enterprise. We also, so that's kind of the overview there, and those interns were part of that development process of this entire initiative. So what we did was we decided we wanted it to be grassroots because we felt that those people who engaged would show up and be present and participate. And so I'll show you a quick timeline of what happened with this initiative. We created an action plan. We met with all the department directors in the organization to determine who would participate in developing a playbook. We worked on the playbook for about 6 weeks. We had people from 10 different departments, maybe about 20 people participate in developing the entire playbook that was delivered and adopted by the GIS steering committee. And then once that happened, we went forward and started implementing. And what the implementation included was a training plan in order to train staff on the use of GIS and how to use it in their workflows. So the next part of that was meeting with individual departments, building out this change network. So GIS was kind of the middle group. We worked from the middle up and the middle down. So we were working with our leadership, getting the adoption, and our entry level staff, or the boots on the ground, if you will, who were working in the different departments with different processes. And so we had these department meetings, and then we began transferring the knowledge, and we continue to do so today. Scroll down. So how did we do that? It's really about storytelling. And GIS, the application, is a wonderful way to do that. Right now, I'm using what they call hub sites. I don't know who's familiar with hub sites, but this is actually in GIS. We created an engagement site where we can show you various pieces of information or data, and we are able to kind of have initiative focuses with this. In particular, this one, I wanted to have a presentation approach for how we're utilizing it. ArcGIS Online, I don't know who's familiar with it, offers various applications that you can use. So other things that we're going to show you here shortly are like story maps. How we utilize a story map. And so there's ways to build excitement within the organization, and we did that by utilizing the actual software to try and gain interest from users in the throughout the city. And so the engagement opportunities included some demonstrations from our vendor, which is the Esri vendor, software vendor. We also had meetings with the Change Network. We had developed training sessions And we leveraged our subject matter experts, not just in GIS, but throughout the city, because they know their data best. And we were able to work with them in order to kind of accomplish the type of things they might want to do. We also did some virtual scavengers. And that was a fun, kind of a fun engagement opportunity. And we utilized our interns at the time to do that as well. So what we did was kind of create different tasks where they needed to go run around and do things in GIS, answer questions, submit it, submit their results, and then if they were able to, they were graded by a certain way, and if they qualified, they would qualify for a prize. And so we had quite a bit of feedback from our from that initiative, and we only did about 4 of them because it was very time consuming for our staff to be working on these things and getting that engagement, but it was well received, and I think people had fun, and they learned quite a bit using our GIS software for that. So in the timeline above, I talked about these department kickoff meetings. This is how I implemented the program throughout the city. And so I'm gonna go ahead and have him launch this. This is gonna take us into a story map, but just kind of give you an idea of how we did this. We took the messaging, we talk about the power of visualizing data in this article. We really focused on kind of how to paint that picture for our leadership so that they could communicate from the top down with their staff why it was important that we were going to do this and what they would get out of it. So we had a city message that we wanted to communicate, and this was kind of what we came up with for the city. But we don't have to read it here, it's kind of part of that messaging that we gave. But the whole idea was that we didn't want to continue to operate in kind of, I guess, call it silos, that's what it says there, because we really wanted to bring everybody together in a way that they can share information across the city. So I created kind of the why we want to do this. We wanted to encourage self-service. We wanted them to use the location technology. And there was widespread support for it. This is the why, if you scroll up a little bit. We had collaboration from everybody across the organization wanting to do this. Decision-making would be increased, and we would be using more analytical approach to how we just made our decisions at the city. We would trust data a bit more because it was curated. It was not just given to the GIS folks to do, we were having contributions from the individual data owners or stakeholders throughout the city. We wanted to modernize the technology and then advance it through the GIS environment. So we kind of talked about the whys and then the what would change. So there wasn't anything huge other than we really wanted to increase the users of the system throughout the city. We wanted to unleash the collaboration approach. And then how we would do it. This was kind of key because oftentimes we find that staff say, well, we don't have time or we don't have permission to be training, right? And so we wanted them to invest in that. So we wanted that commitment, we wanted the time using a 4x4 model, which was like over a period of 4 months, we wanted them to take 4 hours a month and just take some training related to GIS. And we wanted to also leverage low or no cost options. And so we developed what we called Connect on-site training. And the reason we did that was because we felt we would be able to be communicating more directly with staff and identifying their needs and get that engagement for those hours of training that they would be committing to. So this is kind of some of the why we did it. It was doable, it was grassroots. We wanted to engage people in a change network to kind of spread the ideas. If you go tell somebody and they're excited, you're excited about it, they might get excited. And so that's what we leveraged there. And then when we got into the individual departments and meeting with them, I wanted them to identify the why. Why did it matter to that department that they would use an enterprise tool to do something different that they might not have thought of before? And so each department came up with their strategic goals as to why they might do this. So they might help with reporting requirements, they might demonstrate different kinds of data, what is the public impact that mattered and what is the operational impact? And so based on that, they were able to kind of communicate with their staff in a way that mattered. What's the purpose of this? What's the vision? And get that buy-in because we're aligned to those things in the organization by department. And then we identified who would be participating in the change network by department for each of these. So we identified executive sponsors from leadership up to the middle management and then the influencers who were doing the processes down below. And so there was a kind of a list of who those people were so that we could communicate directly with them. And then we looked at the magnitude of change. What was going to change in their department? How many users were there to begin with? This is what this was kind of looking at. And where did we want to get to? And so in this particular example, this is economic development at the city. They had 16 users in the in their department. But we didn't have a whole lot of, there were no power users, so there's nobody in GIS there. And they might have had 3 operational users. And when we called operational users, we were thinking those people who might be using ArcGIS Pro desktop version. And they were doing that for very intentional purposes to affect change on data. And then we had quite a bit of users or viewers, if you will. They just get in and they look at a map and they consume the information, but they don't do much with it. So they're, kind of using it as a reference. And then we had a whole lot of the rest of the department who are non-users. And so the idea here would be that we would convert some of the non-users into users and maybe some of the viewers and operational into something above where they are currently. So how did we do that? That's what we're going to look at here, the what, the when, and the who. We developed a timeline for their department and their individual needs and identify the applications. So ArcGIS Online and or ArcGIS Pro. And so we came up with the timeline and then we started delivering trainings. And so that's how we became successful. We stuck to a very rigid timeline based on the requirements for individual departments. And we were able to then go ahead and create, if you want to go back to the other one, we were then able to create the learning workshops in order to support the effort that we just kind of went through with all our leadership. And so what did we do? Connect on site since October 2022, last year's October, we have had at least 20 sessions throughout the organization for the level of interest that was identified. So different departments, we had custom sessions, we had combined sessions with different users across the city, and we just went to town and we trained. I have trainers in the back here. Alex was one, Heather is another one, and Lucas in the back was one of our interns. He contributed to helping develop and build the content for those. So we have kind of an all hands on deck in order to do that. So
it was the City of Las Cruces Geography Department.
yeah. So we also kind of talked a little bit outside of GIS. We wanted them to understand why quality, the data matters, why trusted data matters, and how to build that quality into data in our enterprise environment. So we talked about that too, because it's really about the stewardship of the data. Once it's in any system, I don't care what system it is, you have to understand what is true, what is real, and be able to trust any kind of data that we are capturing. We also had some virtual on-site sessions for the user conferences this past July and the one before. And so we kind of opened up our conference rooms and invited our employees to come and participate. It wasn't a training, but they might see something that Esri communicated through their conferences, and it was like, oh, you can do that, or it's one of those aha moments. And so they might not have had exposure before, but some people who didn't come originally or weren't participating in GIS, once they came and saw some of the capabilities, they kept coming and coming each kind of session. Something caught their eye and they were kind of engaging more, and that was the whole idea of this Connect Las Cruces. So I just want to show a little bit of a graph. We had quite a bit of attendance at our different workshops by departments and all kinds of different things we talked about with users in the organization. And I really want to talk a little bit about, well, this is what I want to show. So from those trainings, we had some success stories. We had people come in and part of the training, we go ahead and open it up. Part of these trainings that we delivered was really about, first of all, making those 4 hours relevant for them. So they would come at least 4 sessions and learn GIS. And so it was kind of a staged way of training people. But we wanted them, go ahead and scroll up. We wanted their commitment for those hours. And we also wanted to grow their foundational skills. But keep scrolling up. To engage the users, we really wanted to focus mostly on data that mattered to them. So we asked them to bring data. We gave them a homework assignment and we asked them to bring data so that it was something that they could apply and pull into GIS and maybe even ask questions. Well, there's this other data in the enterprise data set for the city. What can I do with that? And so you sit in a classroom, you bring your data, and if somebody has a different approach near you, you're also seeing how their thought process works around data, right? So we had different, I think it was pretty successful, and that's kind of where the rubber met the road in that case, because it was very meaningful to them in their workflows and their processes. So we're going to show you a couple examples here of that. So we had one lady, Janet, she's part of our neighborhood and housing and neighborhood services team, and she's a housing development specialist. So she works a lot on providing housing to people in the community, but it's through a city program. And so over the 15 years, she's tracked data in a spreadsheet for these locations and the close date for when they closed on whatever loans they were working on for those particular units. And she brought her data and she said, this is what I've been tracking this for, whatever number of years. I want to see where they are on the map. Yes. So we're going to show you that. Thank you, sir. So the objective she had was to track how many city assisted affordable housing units existed throughout the city. And there's kind of points all over on there. Her audience was the internal staff in her program. And it was also used to help report on an annual basis to HUD.
Housing unit development.
I'm sorry.
Housing unit development.
Yeah. Housing unit development.
I believe I might be wrong.
And so the data that she captured was some kind of identifier for that particular case number. She also had the closing date and then the address for that and the required affordability period. At that time, she was just tracking single family dwellings. She also has an interest in tracking multifamily dwellings, so that's going to be coming in the future. So it's kind of a very simple map, but it means a lot to her and her program. Sure beats tracking it in a spreadsheet, right?
Not only that, but this helps a lot of people. She uses it to correlate, or not correlate, but well, I guess correlate various data points. When there's limited funding, they aim for having the most effect to whoever they can reach, right? And so when that number is very limited, finding the home that maybe they're a combination of low income and disabled, they're going to benefit the most from something from their program. And so it just really helps to find those answers.
So one of the outcomes from this was she really learned how to use our GIS to create the maps patterns for her data, her workflows. And she's a subject matter expert, so, well, they can just give the data to us. It doesn't mean much to us, right, but it sure meant a lot to her to go through this process, and now she can think of other ways to pull in other data for their program.
Is there kind of an aha moment when we
Yeah.
popped up on the map?
Yeah,
Well, and this is also a little bit of a simpler map that she's, I believe, since more recently begun combining other data points, like, for example, if someone's disabled and they don't live close to a bus line, or factors that would limit their mobility or their accessibility to certain, I want to say amenities or you know, I guess basic human requirements, but the location aspect has kind of allowed her to view her job or her data, and it's opened like a new realm to the way she looks at it, and new factors that she considers or change how she considers those. So it's really helped.
yeah, and the power of visualized data, right?
Yes.
And one of the things through the training that we met with them was identifying their requirements. What do you want to do? What data do you want to see that you don't see? Do we have the data? You can collect the data. And then when you have the data and it has a location, we can show it in GIS, geographically. And so one other example I want to talk about here was Kim and quality of life. She attended again, and she wanted to use GIS mapping to visualize participation in senior programs. So they had received some grant funding, and they wanted to apply it to medically tailored meals, the medically tailored meals program. And so Kim, in this case, worked with one of the GIS analysts to create some routes to try and optimize the quickest way to deliver the meals. And they needed to add some routes. So this kind of factored into some existing routes and how they might be able to optimize routes and adopt some new routes to get meals to where they needed to go. And so again, she had interest in showing addresses, current road conditions, time limits. And there were time limits, obviously, for food delivery, because we don't want the food to spoil as they're going out to these seniors. And so again, really, this was a very significant way of looking at their data and approach to helping their processes. They used to do these, create these maps or routing all by hand. And so this is really bringing efficiencies to their workflow in their department. And then just a testimonial from one of the actual participant seniors. She had stage 4 chronic kidney disease, and she was pleased because she was receiving these, and she was just giving kudos to this whole approach and the friendliness and care of the drivers that they took and making her feel important. So that's where the rubber meets the road, when you can reach the community and seniors like that, you know. So it takes something in a workflow. What we do, we might take it for granted doing every day, but this is how it really matters.
So essentially in this project, we got someone who has never really thought about GIS or spatial. I guess we could say that they were not, didn't utilize spatial intelligence, and consulting with her, we actually ended up using some distance, route, time analysis to generate kind of these routes. I believe they use some volunteers for this. So part of that was they weren't wanting to cost the volunteers a bunch of money and time and gas. So they were really looking for efficiency. I just thought it was cool. I would do route analysis in some classes, and I was finally able to apply it.
There's a testimonial for your department. That's right. So really, we're gonna go pop back into this presentation here. Really, where we were able to provide value was, number one, educating people. Number two, trying to assess the requirements of what the city needs in different departments so that we can help support reporting and data needs and help get those people doing things more effectively and efficient in their workflows where it makes sense. So the next part of the Connect Las Cruces is really building a larger team, right? We don't have but 12 staff in GIS throughout the city, professional staff. So we want to build those trusting relationships, not just amongst our own team, but also with the extension of the team throughout the organization who are using GIS. And so we want to build those connections. That's why one of the reasons we've called it Connect Las Cruces. It's not just connecting Las Cruces as a city with other partners in the region like NMSU or Doñana County. It's about connecting people to process technology, connecting teams, connecting data. You know, it goes forever, you know, talking about connection. So we want to prioritize the relationships over the results, because I think when you do that, you're building that rapport with people, you're communicating the vision, you're building that trust, and because of that, the results happen naturally, right? And so that's really what we wanted to see come out of this, and I think we've been doing that. And we're going to show you a couple stats by membership here. The number of users in our actual software. We started out, I think the article said around 230. Well, we're close to probably 550 users in our system right now. So that's quite a bit of an increase and change in the membership. And now that's kind of coming and going because we've had some users that have left the city or we've added to the city. But we also don't have all of those users using it in the system all the time. So, but what I want to highlight on this one is really all of these people who attended different trainings. That's been helping with this growth of this Connect Las Cruces initiative. But the big one here you might see is the police department. We've had tremendous success with the police department, from the lieutenants all the way down to patrol units utilizing GIS. It's kind of been mandated, and that was talked a little bit about in this article, but this has exploded since that article. And you probably see a lot of bad news in the news about crime in the area, and they are utilizing GIS to help with that, fight crime and respond to crime. And so it's really good to see that kind of use by our police department, because they're actually finding, based on maps that shows data from a rolling 60-day period, they're able to look at some trends and then actually kind of stop crime as it's occurring because of these rolling historical data views of crime in various areas throughout the city. And so that's really another testimony that we have shared in this article. And then also during our Esri user conference, we had the interim police chief speak to our group at the city and how he was tackling using GIS and demonstrating that for the audience there too. So what are some of the outcomes from this whole program that we've been implementing? We've empowered a lot of people in the city to use GIS for their best work. Take the tool and use it and apply your work. We want them collaborating across departments, across users. We share a lot of information in GIS, but we want other people to think the way we do. While we are decentralized as staff members in the organization in GIS, we want to be a resource to them. And so we want to help collaborate. We want them to go out and do the same type of engagement that we have. And that's kind of through our change network. They own their data. They can take their data and put it in GIS and do something with it. They can also self-service that becomes analysts and self-serve themselves. Professional development and also transforming the resources. We don't have to do it the old GIS way. We can empower others to do it and be part of that as well. And so then the other thing that we see as an outcome are the spring edition of the ARC User Magazine and this article. So we kind of went from a smaller group of people and we're expanding. And this picture on the right doesn't even kind of show you how big we are now as an organization at utilizing it. So that was kind of the story behind that. We started out small and we're continuing to expand and really bring thoughtful application to our workflow. And how we utilize data. And so I'm going to take you to the last section here, and it's really about expanding connections. What's next for us? Because we're not going to stop adopting. We want to continue to have a change adoption initiative in the city, but it's not just about GIS anymore. Our focus is really growing more on the backbone of that, which is data and information. And so we're going to continue to do that because we want to improve the lives of the people in the city of Las Cruces, not just as an organization, but throughout the area here. And so we want to continue to do that, focus on enterprise data and bring more business intelligence services to the organization. We also want to build a community of practice program at the city and throughout the region. And that's something we're going to want to work with partners like NMSU, your department, to do that. And also Doñana County, anybody who's interested in geography, anybody who's interested in data, we want to kind of get great minds together and have, conversations and share information and collaborate about how we can do things and build upon that. And then we also want to expand the intern membership in the GIS program. And so that's what we want to share with you today, a little bit about how that worked for Alex here, because he came to us when I think he was a junior. We brought him on as an intern, or what we call co-op and GIS. And he started out, I'll let him tell the story. With that, I'll introduce Alex. You want to give a little background about it?
So I actually, at that time, was an economics major. I have a bachelor's in economics now. But I decided to pursue GIS as a minor, and that's kind of what put me in line for this co-op situation at the city. When I first started, I noticed that the city has been for years collecting a lot of data and continues to collect a lot of data. But they don't really map a lot of it out. Actually, some of the most mapped data is very private, such as utilities. We don't get to see that. They just don't share a lot of community data. And so that's kind of what inspired me to want, I guess, how would you say, like, expand the GIS program. I think it'd be really cool if the city just kind of provide a lot more community resources. All the information's there. This is kind of what we've been working towards, is to map and share our information and visualize it a little more understandably. So meeting this team, it seems that a lot of people are very passionate. A lot of the people I work with are very passionate. So it's very easy to feed the mind and grow in this organization. So I guess that's my short story. Yeah. I've done, I feel like I should keep talking. I've done a few projects. Actually, a lot of the ones we've exampled, I've either worked with, or some of them have been led. I think it's really cool the way that people kind of light up when they can actually see their information. It's more than just a table. It's more than just numbers, numbers and abbreviations. But I just find that really fun. So I really hope to continue, and I really hope we can grow. I think I really enjoyed working here, or my classes here at the geography department. Those were very inspirational. They really kind of drove me to apply that at work. There's just so many possibilities, and I love helping people.
It is.
Yeah, maybe too much.
So a funny story about Alex, when he came, we had to work on some dashboards, in RTS Online. It's an application called Dashboards, and we had to kind of pull information for performance reporting together on these dashboards. And we pulled data from various systems, and one of our systems is called Excella. And it is a permit and business registration application, so that's how all our permitting data is captured. And I pulled the data through a SQL query, and it gets every week it gets pulled from that system and pushed into GIS through an extract process. And we needed to pull this information for a performance report required by the city manager group. And so Alex was helping me with that, and I remember him saying, it's kind of hard to know what to pull, but I know the data. And so it was kind of a teachable moment when he was like, I don't really care about the data, that's your thing, you know. But fast forward 3 years later, and he is one of the greatest gifts we have in our data program, because he really does have a passion for our data, even though at the time he said, I don't really care, you figure, you know.
It was a co-op.
Because I was kind of vetting the data as he was building out the different graphs and things on there, and I said, this isn't right or whatever. So we had kind of a back and forth testing process going on, and so it's really a joy to have students come in from kind of an entry level, may not understand data much at all, and then over time they really have a passion for some of the things and the initiatives that the city is working on. And so we'd like to see more of that coming from the university here.
To kind of build off that story, part of that was coming out of the kind of school system. You're kind of like in homework assignment mode. And the data we use, I mean, it's for an assignment and then you kind of throw it away, right? Unless you're doing research for your grad project. So I was kind of in that mindset, you know, give me a table, give me a data set, let me use it and move on. But through that co-op program, I learned the importance of the application and how it actually affects the community and actually affects people. And that's kind of what's transformed my thinking around this is it actually does matter. It actually, people's lives, people's livelihoods and the community are all affected by the data we work with. And so just to kind of sum up Courtney's points, one, we use Esri products at the city. I guess they're the corporate GIS, they have a bunch of other applications outside of ArcGIS Pro. We do use Pro a lot. That's mostly the GIS group. The city as a whole tends to use the other applications. And kind of what we've been doing is introducing people more to the spatial aspects of their data. The data was always there. The analysts have been at the city for a long time, but the location aspect of data, the geographic aspect of data was kind of missing. And so that's kind of what we've been working to grow and just kind of improve and expand on.
Can you say if your program developing and you're making contact with all these different units, that they all of a sudden say, wow, we have this data, if we can add spatial elements to it, it means something fantastic.
And that's exactly what was happening, but an issue we kept running into was people weren't tracking the spatial aspects of it. So exactly, part of the reason for these trainings was we were kind of showing people what they needed to include for us to be able to work with them. XY coordinates, addresses, some sort of location. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to map it. And so that's kind of one of the inspirations for this Connect Las Cruces, was to show people how they can help us help them, essentially.
Any other questions?
Got on the chat. Anything in the chat as well? I assume we're in the question mode.
Well,
You have things to say.
If nobody has questions, I'll say a couple examples, but I'd like to field any questions if there
One I'm really proud of, our current co-op, Lucas, he's also a student right now. He's contributed majorly to community maps. I also know NMSU works within campus on community maps. If Lucas is comfortable, he is welcome to come talk about it. But if he's not, I'll present it. Yay! So just to backtrack, this is the grand scale of everything. How do I exit this? So he has worked on all these properties. This has all been his work. So
Well, some of it's not mine, but
Do you wanna tell them?
I want to say like 80%. 90.
A little bit.
yeah, so basically, I've just been editing the actual, base map, the community base map. And as you can see here, when you look around, it's mostly just gray unless you go to these specific points right here. And I basically just use near map imagery and basically just drew what I saw on there. So I basically just created the story map to essentially just show like, hey, I've been.
Property by property.
Here, let me,
He's a little nervous.
I didn't know I was gonna be talking today.
I just threw you in there.
Yeah, it's fine.
Is that there?
What's that?
So you have trees, was that there already, or?
Nothing was here at all. I just, like I said, I just took the imagery and put it on there.
So
It's,
I'm just gonna interrupt real quick. The trees are representative. They're not actual. There's no they're just there for illustration purposes.
They're a point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so there's essentially 5 trees that they have available. I just use the same tree over and over again because I'm not at liberty to say what kind of tree that is.
Yeah, Parks wants to
Go
track.
ahead and check.
Yeah, exactly. If
Um,
Parks wants to track species and condition, I'm down to help, but not yet.
But I basically made this story map to just show off what I've been working on. I was learning how to use story maps and decided to fill in some information about each thing, had some links, some pictures, just to show off what's here. Actually, everything that we're seeing right now, I didn't do this, but I did do just about everything in the downtown area. This is all me right here. And it's already received some feedback on there and some use out of planning events, specifically anything that's downtown, farmers market, things like that. I think La Vida, I think they use this map just to say, hey, we're gonna put this booth here, we're gonna put that booth there. And it's really
Proven useful.
definitely just having a visualization for something as opposed to having to switch to the imagery or look into that. It's just much quicker to see what's there without having to add in so many different layers.
So that's what interns can contribute to.
Honorary bachelor.
Nice looking map.
So the community based map project is an Esri initiative that actually encourages communities to participate by submitting their information. This is a world map. So it is actually in all countries around the world. People are contributing to this and creating a global representation of their city. We are contributing the roads, the buildings, and also the addresses at this particular time.
So I'm just going
So what
to,
that also means though is that if you are in DC and you do a project here, that information is available that they can get to.
I'm just trying to look for another spot, but if you go to other cities, you can see that everyone else can contribute, and it doesn't matter where you are, you can see what is on there.
I think some people at NMSU contribute. There's
Yeah.
NMSU.
Here's MSU, so it's everyone does work on this, and it really makes the whole community better for that.
That was not us, that's
Yes.
someone here. I'm not sure.
Paulina.
We did know.
Anything else you want me to say about this here?
No, thank you.
Do you like being a co-op?
Yeah, I like being a co-op, try it.
Cool. Another example.
Do you wanna show, we have just a couple more minutes, if you wanna show one more of those.
You guys want to see cannabis or city permits?
Aren't they related?
So this is a little bit more on the data analytics side. This is some graphs showing kind of commercial and residential development activities. We have anywhere from project valuations, certificate of occupancy. We can see there was a dip in 19 and we kind of have an increase in occupancy in 22. 23 is not complete yet, so you'll always see that as a little low. We still have a few months this year. Similar with valuation, you can almost see the effects of COVID and after COVID where the economy picked back up.
It's very interactive, so you can click on a point
Yeah,
and
exactly.
things will change.
This is another Esri app called Insights. This is a little bit more on the data analytics. That's a little, it's my recent passion. You can see everything's kind of color coded by year. You can click on the dot and have it update with pertinent values. You can see residential.
So these are kind of the dashboard performance metrics that the city might be interested in tracking. And then the building a dashboard to do that and interacting and kind of seeing the different data and where the location is for this.
Then we have cannabis. And this, I'm not familiar with this one. We're looking at council districts, and I believe these are dispensaries, depending on the color code. Some are allow smoking within, I believe, so that would be
There's
like a
different types of businesses that have
lounge.
been issued a cannabis business registration.
Yeah,
And where the locations are. And so some people in the community who might be interested in setting up another shop might want to look at this and see where the best place might be within a buffer zone where they're allowed to set up and then try and apply an application if they are able to acquire it. So you can see your competition.
The total number I can drive around town, just counting them.
We have, I think, close to 70.
That's
So,
wow.
originally, I think there were like over 200 initial permit requests.
Okay.
but these are approved, issued.
Yeah.
Business locations.
Something else that this would inform, I would say, is voting. So maybe you're in a specific district. And depending on what the new district representative is campaigning on, you can kind of use this map. Do we need more dispensaries? Maybe I do. Maybe someone over here, or maybe someone down Elks wants one and they want to petition towards their council representative Gandara for some kind of dispensary. I don't know.
So again, the power of visualizing your data.
You can see, there's food deserts. Well, there's a dispensary desert out here.
You may have coined a new phrase.
So that's all we have for you today, and we appreciate you allowing us to come speak with you. Any questions, any comments?
This is great.
Cool.
You have a thank you. There's nothing on here, but you do have a thank you. I'm still fascinated by the process of data that's not suitable for GIS initially. And how much effort that takes to go back and find locations and stuff. Is that dependent upon your office, or you actually get the original data owner to update that and bring it up
It
to?
depends, we work with them generally, we have people taking GPS units out and collecting.
Oh, okay,
points,
okay.
It really depends.
Some of it can also be kind of deduced or derived through different combinations. So something like water meters, maybe it doesn't have a location. We have an account. and an owner name, which we can tie to an address. So it's a
Okay.
combination of data to arrive at those answers as well. She said we have people taking points. A lot of the data at the city, the original owner is quite retired. So some of it we're having to try to find ways to append that information or restructure the way we collect. And in some cases, we're just kind of moving on and towards new methods where the existing is just going to be what it is, but we're using that to inform a new method of collection that includes data, location data.
Had any aha moments where it's like nobody knew this is happening in the city, but once you mapped it, it appeared, anything like that?
I would like to say there were a couple, it's usually per person. For example, we have someone in utilities, Carmela, she works with gas connections and she's trying to reconcile these before they used to use like gas cards. And she's trying to find ways to locate that and update certain aspects of that information. And I was working with her and she was very excited about the mapping aspect of some of these gas accounts and gas utility accounts. So that was one. We've had a lot of quality of life because so they're like library, they do a lot of city events, public events and stuff, and they were like, oh, I don't know, we could kind of map quality of life stuff, but kind of helps them put information out or attract people a certain way. Police department was very excited. Crime data, I guess, is very mappable.
Okay, I had a question when you mentioned that. We had 2 graduate students many years ago, back in the 90s, do mapping for the city of Las Cruces, and they were mapping, I think it was arrests or something. And there was this immense peak right at the police station showing that a lot of crime.
Still a problem.
And it was that the officers were just giving the police station address as the location.
Right, exactly.
So I would assume that's.
Well, that's
improved a
because
little
that's the intake location.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when we do these maps, we have to kind of take them out of there and not include that in the data.
Unfortunately, that's like the error in that data.
Sure.
And that's part of what we were doing here, trying to inform them how to better
Qualify their data
Yeah.
as in the process.
and we're still trying to work towards giving them a useful method of being accurate in that sense. We still have the worst spot for crime in the city of Las Cruces are Walmart and the police station. One of those is totally, you just have to dismiss, or not dismiss, but kind of get rid of that data because it skews it too much, which is
Well, big shopping areas in El Paso, it's the malls.
Yeah.
And those cars are stolen because of the parking lot.
And so that's where you get a lot of that property theft, property vandalism is Walmart's. We've noticed, and then we've noticed a couple other trends in certain parts of town, but yeah, I mean, the police station is still crime ridden apparently.
Yes, I was really impressed with the way you went about bringing everyone on board. Because in many, like in some situations, you get a new president and everything changes. And there's a lot of opposition to that because, you don't want to have to learn a whole new software set, et cetera. But I thought it was really innovative the way that you kind of said, okay, we're gonna need to all be involved in this. And we want you to understand your data and tell us how we can manage it. I think that was just really great because it allowed you to get so much buy-in.
Exactly.
And having Esri involved too, I mean, they do, before COVID, I was trying to set up a drone workshop with one of the Esri representatives, and then COVID hit and we all forgot about all that stuff. But they do like to, they like to get out and talk to people too.
We'll set it up at the city, I'd love to.
Say what?
I said, come set it up at the city, I'd love to attend.
There you go, okay, yeah.
We could use, honestly, we were always joking around using drones for our inspectors. I know.
Anybody from our team have any other comments they want to make or share? Heather Glaze was part of the training team. She's now kind of the training lead and recording some videos so that we can not always have to be in front of a classroom and they can kind of take it at their leisure. And that's helpful for onboarding new employees. So she's kind of running with that a little bit. We have some new ones we'll be wanting to kick off as well. So she does a fantastic job with that. Actually, pretty much all the team here have been involved in developing training. And that's really important, getting the tools in the hands of our users so that they can get up and going quickly.
Question?
Thank you very much, Courtney, for your presentation, and I'm so amazed of how GIS can be helpful and useful to help people from different professions, and they may find GIS an amazing tool in their daily lives. And I just wanted to talk, to our graduate students who enroll in my GIS fundamentals of GIS class, and to show them like a great example of using story maps and using online GIS maps. And you could potentially think about data from the City of Las Cruces to be used in your final project. And this is just a great example of a final project and something you can think about. And I also would like to mention that we have a bachelor's degree in GIS and technology that is currently in the process for approval. So and I can see this is a great opportunity, or any job opportunities like they can potentially land after going through our training here through our bachelor's degree. And I can also think about some nice advertisement materials for our program, those collaboration opportunities.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the technology is just changing so quickly, and I kind of rely on Alex quite a bit because he's kind of focused on the emerging side, and he can get in real quick and figure things out. And so that's really important to have on your team, because it changes like every month. There's new updates and things like that, and so it's important to keep up with it. And so if that can be part of the curriculum too, that's any way to train people on some of the basics, and then knowing that there's these additional apps out there, story maps and various things. It's very powerful messaging and engaging people. I don't know if you have any other things to say about that, but he's all over that most of the time. He's our ask Alex, he'll figure it out.
Every office needs someone like that, right?
Well, I think it's because of the age group. I'm not trying to discriminate in any way. I'm just saying that the younger crowd, they've grown up with the technology, and so they're a bit more, I guess, advanced in it in some ways, and forward thinking and things like that.
Curious and
Exactly.
driven.
I can make it do it.
I mean, my son grew up, playing video games, and I grew up playing outdoor games. So it's great to have a younger generation introduced into our workforce, because we want to introduce more of the emerging technologies and the modernization of GIS and data, and it helps us stay on pace with the way the needs of the organization and where we're going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Great.
Everyone. I interrupt.
No, I'm good.
I've got to let you off the hook at some point. Oh, yes, also, we will be gathering for socialization at the Boston Brewery on University. So anyone is welcome to join us. Yeah, we'll sponsor some appetizers. No.